Hey there everybody, welcome back to the Ocarina of Time Dungeon Guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Gerudo Training Grounds. This is a pretty interesting dungeon in that it's completely optional, and it's sort of like a challenge dungeon. This is a place that you can gain access to pretty early on in your playthrough of Ocarina of Time. However, you'll pretty quickly find that there's quite a few rooms in here that will require items that you get from much later on in the game. And that's actually why we are sort of doing this at the end of our series here, as we're probably going to find out that we'll need something from just about every dungeon in order to get through this thing. In any case, we'll be starting on the right-hand side of the Gerudo Training Grounds. As we entered that sort of entrance area, we saw that there were 3 different ways to go. The center pathway is sort of where the end of the Gerudo Training Grounds is. If you go through that door, you'll find that there is a room in there with a ton of locked doors. And essentially what we're doing here in the Gerudo Training Grounds is collecting all the keys that we need to get through that room. So again, we're on the right-hand side starting out, and this first room here has a bunch of enemies in it, as well as a timer. And all we got to do is take out all those enemies before the timer runs out, and we will be rewarded with a key. And we will move on to the next room. Looks like this room right here has a bunch of silver rupees in it. We can get through this room pretty easily by using the hover boots. You can jump between some of these without the hover boots, but I think there are some that are just a little bit too far for something like that. So we'll go ahead and pop those on and start working our way through this area. There's a switch there. There was I don't know if we actually saw it on screen, but there was a ring of fire surrounding one of the silver rupees. I think it was the one off to the left there. And by pressing that button, we were able to remove that ring of fire. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And we'll be continuing over here. And that ledge up there, of course, is a little bit too high for us to reach, so we'll use the hook shot to either hit that target there or the torch. Either one works. And by collecting the final rupee there, a door on the lower level was opened up, but before we go that way, we will continue off in this direction. We will be back to that lava room in a little bit. Here in this room, we've got some enemies to deal with, as well as some of these totem pole things. This room definitely requires the Megaton Hammer. So I said that you need to take out these enemies. It will actually spawn a chest when you defeat all of the enemies, but the chest is actually sort of a red herring. There's actually, I believe, just bombs inside of it. It's not a small key. It will, however, unlock the door, so we will need to be doing it anyway. I was hitting that slug with the hammer there. I have no idea why I was doing that. Kind of feel like it's slower than just slashing him with the Master Sword. There you go, spawning a chest, which looks an awful lot like, maybe you'd find a small key in there, but no, the small key is going to be inside the chest in that ring of fire there. If you hit this totem pole thing with the Megaton Hammer, you can reveal one of these eyeball switches. Hitting that with the bow will open the door that's sort of ahead of us, that's leading further into this leg of the dungeon. I think I said there were bombs in that chest. I meant arrows, of course. I said bombs, I meant arrows. But anyway, knocking away that short little totem pole there, that little mini one, revealed a switch sort of recessed in the ground there. That's kind of cool. And there you go, another small key collected, and we will continue on over in this direction. This is a pretty cool room. We've got this rotating platform, and in the center, we've got a bunch of lava and this pretty crazy looking statue. And this can be pretty challenging, depending on, I guess, how good you are at shooting on moving platforms, which I think is actually pretty tough in Ocarina of Time. But as we rotate around, we'll be trying to hit the eyes of this statue. And it makes a funny sound whenever you land a hit. Ooh. And that's going to spawn a chest right there, and whoa, almost fell in the lava there. I almost said we dipped our toes in the lava there. I think we dipped a little bit more than that. And anyway, we will use this hookshot target to get back over here. And before leaving, I'm going to take a glance up there. There's sort of a balcony up there. And we will find ourselves up on that balcony much later on, almost at the end of the Gerudo Training Grounds. And otherwise, that was essentially a dead end. We can now turn around, come back this way. If you recall, we opened up a door right here when we collected all of the silver rupees. And we've yet to go through it, so we'll check that out now. Past me was really thinking about jumping. Trying to make that jump, and it just looks like it may be a little bit too far. So we'll go ahead and be smart and use the hover boots Better safe than sorry when dealing with lava. You know me, that's what I always say, better safe than sorry when around lava. I do not know why I didn't just shoot the torch with the hookshot. I could have done that. I may have even been able to go all the way over there from that top balcony. Anyway, though, getting past that, we're in a room over here. We got some Song of Time blocks kind of sunken into the ground here. By playing the Song of Time, those will disappear, revealing this pool of water. And you saw me equip both the Zora Tunic and the Iron Boots. We'll be coming on down here. This is sort of a claustrophobic little area down here. Got a lot of clams as well as more silver rupees to collect. So I'm going to start by just taking out all the clams. I don't like trying to work around them or thinking about them even. So we'll wipe those guys out. And now there is sort of a whirlpool in this room. So you can collect some of these, or maybe even all of them, by just removing the iron boots and sort of swimming around. But it can be kind of difficult to, I guess, accurately move when the current is sort of taking you for a ride. There is one near the ceiling that we pretty much have to do that. We have to take off the iron boots and hopefully catch it as we kind of spin around as we float up to the surface, but otherwise, as you can see, I'm sort of just shooting hookshot targets, sort of positioning myself so that I grab them as I'm being pulled towards the target. Some of them you just kind of shoot yourself to a target and then sink back down, and there's one like directly below. But anyway, as you can see there, I remove the iron boots, and I'm kind of just swimming around the outside edge of the room, and I was able to collect that final silver rupee without too much trouble. And floating on up here, we'll find that another small chest was spawned, and we will collect yet another small key. And at this point here, we're basically done with the, I guess, right-hand side of the Gerudo Training Grounds. Thinking about that entrance area where there was 3 different paths to go. This entire time we've been on the right leg, and we've pretty much done everything that we can do over here. So we'll now be heading back to the entrance of the dungeon, and we will be checking out now the left-hand side. You, of course, can go down the middle path at pretty much any point during the Gerudo Training Grounds. Like I said, there's just a room with a ton of locked doors. Of course, until you have enough keys to actually beat the dungeon, there's really not a whole lot of reason to be doing that, but I guess it can be sort of nice to, gauge your progress. You can see how much further you have to go. Anyway, though, here we are on the left-hand side of the dungeon. This first room right here can be pretty challenging. We've got 2 Stalfoss to take out, and we've only got 60 seconds to do it. We got pretty lucky with that first one. Got some jump slashes on him while he was in the air. And otherwise, we'll be taking those guys out without too much trouble. This room is sort of tricky because the sand, you'll actually sink down in it if you sit still too long. So if you're kind of like waiting for the Stalfoss to do something, you may not realize it, but your feet start going into the ground and it becomes more difficult to move. You kind of slow down and jump slashes are screwed up and it's sort of a pain, so make sure you keep moving. Otherwise, we're in this room here. We've got some more silver rupees to collect with a timer this time. This one's kind of tricky because there are those invisible firewalls that'll pop up in front of you when you least expect it. As well as these boulders that are going to chase me down this hill. No shame in doing this room a couple of times if it takes you, more than one attempt. But there is quite a bit of time. Just kind of keep on moving and don't get discouraged when a wall pops up in front of you and you have to turn around and go back the way you came. There we go, collecting the final rupee. It's going to open up the door. No key in this room. All we're doing is just opening up the door. As you can see, you can get through the firewalls if you can find a hookshot target to aim at. It'll pull you right through it. It'll show that sort of red splash as if you're taking damage, but you won't take damage. In this room right here, we're going to need a few different tools. This is kind of why we needed to do the Gerudo Training Ground after the Spirit Temple, because we will need the Silver Gauntlets for this room. Speaking of the Silver Gauntlets, this room is actually sort of optional. It's kind of difficult to explain. I'll probably try to touch on it a little bit later. But depending on what doors you unlock in the final room, you can actually save a key. So if you don't have the Silver Gauntlets, you could actually skip this one and still complete the dungeon. It just would depend entirely on you not opening the wrong door in the final room. And I realize we haven't even shown off the final room in this footage, but If you're watching this video because you were struggling with the dungeon, you probably do already know what it looks like. Anyway, we've pushed that block all the way back and we found a locked door behind it. But this is sort of a sneaky little spot over here. If you use the Eye of Truth, there's actually a hole in the wall with a hookshot target that we can reach and hopefully hit. And in here, we're going to find a door and a switch. The switch is going to unlock the door that was behind that block. We'll be back to enter that in just a few seconds. And here's a familiar room. This was that room with the rotating platform and the statue. I said that we would be up on top of this balcony in a little while. Here we are. And in here, this is a pretty interesting room. There's a small key, and if we look below, right there is actually the end of the dungeon. That's the big chest with the item that we're trying to get. And interestingly, you can actually see another chest on the other side of this cage here. That is actually one that you access from inside the final room. A very, very well-hidden key, in my opinion. But anyway, we'll touch on that when we get to that final room. And we'll now head back to the previous room. This is the room where the giant block was. Like I said, we unlocked that door. We have yet to go through it, so here we go. Inside this room here, we're going to find 3 like-likes. I actually enjoy this room a lot. It sort of trolls you in a couple different ways. But if you kind of dodge all the like-likes and hop up here, surely there's a key inside, but oh no, it's actually just going to freeze you. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin around and start taking out all of these like-likes. Apparently I elected to hit him with the bow and arrow, which I guess is a safe way to do it. It's just sort of hard to hit them. You have to kind of shoot them lower in their body, because if you shoot them kind of closer to their mouth, they seem to not take damage. As you can see, that one sort of tink and not do anything at all. In any case, having killed the like-likes, 2 chests are going to spawn. And surely there's going to be a small key in one of these, right? We'll open up this first one. And that was a blue rupee. There was a blue rupee above my head, which was sort of covering the other blue rupee, but... So surely this is the small key. No, it's another rupee. What the heck's going on here? But if you come over here, what do you know? There's actually a small chest here the entire time. It was just invisible. We can reveal that with the Eye of Truth. And there we go. Finally, we got the small key that we were looking for in that room. And then at this point, I believe we're down on the left leg of the dungeon. So we'll head back all the way to the beginning. And it's finally time to start going down that middle path and start using all of these keys. We've got 7 small keys. I don't think you'll ever have any more than that anywhere else in Ocarina of Time. I shot at that hookshot target, missed, and then decided that there's no real reason to be doing that, so I'll just walk. This last room here with the standing stones, I've always thought that room looked pretty cool. And here we are again, back at the beginning of the dungeon. And now we're going to have a pretty fun time just blowing through keys. It's kind of satisfying if you just do it all at once. This is kind of where it's explained to you what you're really supposed to be doing here in the Gerudo Training Grounds. There's the chest there. And I did mention that you can sort of save a key and skip a puzzle. And already I have sort of intentionally hit the point of no return by going down the right leg of this center room. I just want to show you where all of the keys are, and there is actually a key to be picked up right here. This is actually on top of that lava room where we collected all of those silver rupees. But yes, this right-hand side is actually a dead end. And if you think about it, we used 2 keys to get 1 key, so we're sort of out a key. We've used up a key. So if you want to beat the Gerudo Training Ground without the Silver Gauntlets, like maybe earlier than the Spirit Temple, you can do that as long as you skip the right-hand side. Oh, and yes, there's this key right here. This is probably the most well-hidden key in the Gerudo Training Ground. It took me forever to find this key. While we were running around the dungeon, we saw the room on the other side of this fence here, and we could actually see that there was yet another key to be collected. But it was not very clear how you got into this room. And it turns out that there's an illusionary wall that you can see through using the Eye of Truth, and you can actually climb up in there from within the final room, which is kind of cool. Other than that, there's a lot of chests here in the final room. You may be, tempted to, get excited. You might think to yourself, oh boy, there may be a key in there. I might be able to get through one more room, but there's never keys here in this room. I opened up some of these during testing, and there's things like purple rupee, red rupee, lots of arrows. but otherwise no keys. Luckily, however, it doesn't look like we need any more keys, because we are now in the final section of the room, and we'll be able to open up this chest and get the super secret optional item. What's it going to be? Yep, it's going to be the ice arrows. So kind of cool to be seeing those in another Zelda game. This, of course, is sort of a reoccurring item that's been in many, many Zelda games. In the Ocarina of Time, the ice arrows, unfortunately, don't really have a whole lot of uses. They do extra damage versus the normal arrows. And there are a certain, I think the blue Tektites, like at Lake Hylia, for whatever reason, when you kill those enemies with the ice arrows, they drop lots and lots of money. So I guess one big use for the ice arrows is if you're broke and you need some money, you can just go to Lake Hylia and just max out your rupees real quick. But otherwise, not really a whole lot of uses for the ice arrows. I do believe the Gerudo Training Grounds is really just a place kind of for bragging rights. So, you know, make sure to run door to door in your neighborhood and make sure everyone knows that you're the cool kid on the block because you got ice arrows. But in any case, that is going to do it for the Gerudo Training Ground. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Coming up next is going to be the grand finale of the Ocarina of Time Dungeon Guide. We're going to be looking at Ganon's Castle. I hope you stay tuned for it, and I'll see you in the next video.